Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our virtual Dirshu Mishnah Berurah share. We begin today, Mishnah Berurah Chelik Hey. We're on Tzadik Beis Amid Aleph. We're continuing Hilchas Pesach, and we're beginning now with Siman Tuf Pei Vav on the top of Tzadik Beis Amid Aleph. Little interesting. There's no heading to this Siman. Typically, the Mechaber puts in a brief description of what the Siman is about. In this Siman, for some reason, there isn't one here. It just says Tuf Pei Vav Ubay Sif Echad. Here we have one Sif. Maybe because it's so short, the Sif speaks for itself, and it would be totally unnecessary to put in a header. But for whatever reason, there is no header here. Says the Mechaber, Shir Kazayas. What is the measurement of a Kazayas? We know we're talking about all of these things that we need to eat on the Seder night. Most importantly, let's say the matzah, one of the only chiyuvei daraisa, maybe the only chiyuv achila daraisa that we have nowadays. So we have this mitzvah say daraisa of achilas matzah, and the minimum amount that you need to eat in order to be mekayim the mitzvah is a kazayas. So says the Shulchan Aruch, share kazayas, the measurement of a kazayas. Yesh oimrim dehevi kachatzi beitza. There are those that say that this is equal to half of an egg. And this is the Shita of Taisvis in Chulin on Daf Kuf Gimel. You can see that mentioned in the Berurah Hagolah. Says the Mishnah Berurah over here in Ois Cotton Aleph. The heavy Kachatzi Beitza. We have the Shita of Taisvis that a Kazayas is equal to half an egg. And the Chavetz Chaim says Beinanis. We're talking about an average-sized egg. Im Klipasa, together with its shell. The Dasa Rambam, that's the opinion of Taisvis. The Dasa Rambam, the opinion of the Rambam is the Kazayas hu kishlish beitza, that a Kazayas is actually equal to a third of an egg. Vayim b'magen Avram u'bir agra masher kasvu bazeh u'le'inyan dina b'mitzvah da'araisa. When it comes to a mitzvah da'araisa, kigoyim b'mitzvah seid achilas matzah, like the mitzvah seid da'araisa that we have to eat a Kazayas of matzah. So says the Chavetz Chaim, yesh lahachmir, we should rule stringently, and we should make sure to eat at least the amount equal to half an egg, which is the more stringent position of Taisvis. Unless we're talking about an ill individual, and it would be too difficult for him to eat that amount. Then the Chavetz Chaim says we could rely on the sheet of the Rambam and eat an amount equivalent to a third of an egg. Now, that's when it comes to a mitzvah daraisa like achilas matzah on the first night of Pesach. However, when it comes to the mitzvah of alachilas marar, we've mentioned many times already that marar b'zman hazeh is only a darabanan. Marar is only a daraisa when you have a korban Pesach. Unfortunately, right now we don't have a korban Pesach, so marar is only a mitzvah darabanan. In that case, then certainly we could rely b'di'eved, it would be enough to eat only a third of an egg. Even though the eating of the marar is only a mitzvah d'Rabbanan, since you are going to make a bracha over the achila of the marar, we certainly don't want that bracha to chas v'chalila be a bracha of atala. Nira de'en lahakel bazeh. The Chavetz Chaim says, therefore, we shouldn't rule leniently even by the marar. Unless we're talking about a weak individual, the kashalai, and it was difficult for him to eat that much marar, then then it would be enough for him to eat only an amount equivalent to a third of a beitza. Now, when it comes to the amount that you need to eat in order to bench, we know that midrabanan you have to bench already once you ate a kazayis. Over there we rule that safek brachas lahakel v'lo yavarech at sheyeda she'achal kachatzi beitza, and one should not make the bracha of benching. You shouldn't recite benching unless he ate an amount equivalent to at least a half of a beitza. It would be proper to take care. One should not get himself involved in a situation where there's a suffix whether or not he's chayiv in a bracha. And therefore, you should make sure that you eat an amount of bread or of matzah on Pesach equivalent to a chatzi beitza. That way, for sure, you ate a kazayas, and now you can certainly bench. Or make sure they eat a lot less than a third of an egg. What he's concerned with is don't get yourself involved in a situation where you ate between a third of a beitza and a half of a beitza, because now you're getting yourself into a problem area here. According to Taisvis, you don't have a kazayis unless you eat a chatzi beitza. According to the Rambam, you already have a kazayis if you ate a third of a beitza. So if you're between a third and a half, you're in no man's land. You're stuck between Taisvis, between the Rambam and the Taisvis, and now do you say benching or not? Says the Chavetz Chaim, V'la'anias daiti. The Chavetz Chaim says that in his humble opinion, Nira denachain lechatchila sheyochal kebeitza pas. A person should take care when it comes to benching. He should make sure he eats an amount of bread or of matzah equal to a full egg. You should eat a kebeitza of bread or of matzah if you're going to bench. Because if not, if you eat less than a full beitza, until this point, we haven't seen this. Until this point, we've spoken about a half a beitza according to Taisvis and a third of a beitza according to the Rambam. Where are we now getting a full beitza from? So the Chavetz Chaim explains, because if you don't eat an amount equivalent to a full beitza, yesh chash bracha levatala ala bracha sheberach mitchila al hanetila le'eza paiskim. Now you're getting yourself into a new problem. If you eat less than a kibetza of challah or of matzah on Pesach, now you have an issue with the bracha of al netilas yadayim. Why do we wash before we eat bread? It's for tahara purposes. We know that stam yadayim are shniyos l'tuma. So we want you to wash it, whether it's mishum srach truma or for other reasons, but whatever it is, it's based on tuma and tahara. That's why you wash the netilas yadayim. Now the problem is, according to some shitas, you're only chayiv to wash the netilas yadayim, and you can only make a bracha al netilas yadayim if you eat the kibetza. Why? Because less than a kibetza of food is not makabel tumah midaraisa. So therefore, there would be no reason for netilas yadayim on eating less than a kibetza. So if you're going to eat only a half a beitza, so now there's a shayla on your washing. How did you wash and make a bracha al netilas yadayim? Therefore, says the Chavetz Chaim, you're going to wash on bread, make sure you eat at least a kibetza. The Chanal b'sim kaf nun chesiv beis ayin sham. Now says the Chavetz Chaim, v'ato nachzor li'inyanenu. Now let's go back to Hilchas Pesach, where we started this whole discussion from. You should know, says the Chavetz Chaim, Damasha kosav ha'machaber kazayas kachatzi beitza lav milsa psiktehi bizmanenu. This statement that the Mechaber makes over here, that a kazayas is equal to a half a beitza, and like we mentioned, he's pulling that from Taisvis and Chulin. That's really not so clear nowadays. Why not? Because there are those achronim who prove, who conclude, and this is a reference to the famous shita of the tzlach, the beitzim hamatzuyim bizmanenu, that the eggs that we have in contemporary times, niskatnu harbe ad lemechza mikefi shahayu bayamim hakadmoinim shebaem shiaru chachamim. Our contemporary eggs, the tzlach says, are about half the size of the eggs at the time when these shiurim were decided upon. Therefore, based on this thought, so then whenever we see a minimum share of a chatzi beitza, nowadays with our eggs, we have to reckon with a full beitza. If it's true that our eggs were reduced in size by that much, by 50%, so then that means that when the shitas that say that a kazayas is a chatzi beitza, that was a chatzi beitza of theirs. By us, it's a full beitza, not a chatzi beitza. V'ayin b'shari tshuva she'echriya she'esh lachalik bazel linyin shiurin be'davar shechiyuva min ha'torah l'davar shechiyuva midrabbanan. The Shari Tshuva concludes that when it comes to this question of a reduction in the size of the eggs, whether or not we should be concerned about that depends whether we're dealing with a daraisa or a darabanan. So, if you're dealing with something that's a darabanan, kigain marar bizman hazeh. Marar nowadays when we don't have a carbon pasach is a darabanan. Vafi kaiman. And the eating of the Afikaimen nowadays is also a Chiv D'Rabbanan. Remember, we're being Yaitza the mitzvah of Achilas Matzah with the Maitzi Matzah. So that's our Chiv D'Araisa. The Afikaimen, we said, according to Moshitis, is a Zecher to the Karban Pesach. That's a Chiv D'Rabbanan. The Kaisais, or the measurements of the Arba Kaisais, which is certainly a Chiv D'Rabbanan. So nowadays, when we're dealing with matzah, which is a chiyuv daraisa, then we should eat an amount equivalent to a full beitza. That way, we're doing the shita of taisvis, the more chamerdik shita of taisvis, that the share of a kizayis is the equivalent of a half a beitza. And we're also taking into consideration the tzlach, the reduction in the size of our contemporary eggs. So we're eating a full beitza to be mekayim the shita of taisvis. But Mara, which is a Chiv D'Rabbanan, over there would be Yaitza, even if we only eat an amount equivalent to a third of an egg, and we don't have to worry about the reduction in the size of the eggs either, because there we're dealing with a D'Rabbanan. Okay. Lamaisa, as far as the measurement of matzah, the size of a kizayis, I see that Reb David Feinstein Shlita Zalzayin Gesund Stark writes in his Haggadah. He says that he measures the size of a kizayis. He says that the average egg is approximately 3 ounces. That's the number that he comes to, and therefore a half a beitza, which a kizayis, which is a half a beitza, would be 1.5 ounces. So you would have to eat 1.5 ounces of matzah in order to fulfill your obligation. Now, we said earlier that matzah, really, we want you to eat 2 kizaysim, right? 1 kizayis from the top matzah and 1 kizayis from the yachatz matzah. Remember, we had that whole machlekes, which bracha, which matzah is the hamaitzi going on, which bracha is the achilas matzah going on. So we want to use both matzahs, the top and the middle. So we said you should eat a kizayis for each one. But Reb David says, for that chumrah, to eat 2 kizaysim, we don't have to use the chumrah dikashita of a kizayis. So over there he says we could rely on the sheet of the Rambam that it's only that a kizayis is only a third of a beitza, and we could also use a more kula dikashita than what the average size of an egg is. He says there's another way of measuring. You could come with 2.2 or 1.9 ounces. But what's interesting is that according to his calculations, the amount of matzah that you're going to eat to use the more stringent opinion of the size of a kizayis, so you're going to figure that an egg is 3 ounces and a kizayis is a chatzi beitza, so that means a kizayis is 1.5 ounces. That's the same amount of matzah that you need in order to fulfill the stringency of eating 2 kizaysim. Because for that stringency, we're going to go with smaller eggs, and we're going to go with the sheet of the Rambam of a third of an egg, that a kizayis is a third of an egg. And if you do the math, 1.5 ounces covers you for both. So by eating 1.5 ounces of matzah, you cover all of the requirements. Okay. Continues the Ramah. Haga. When you eat the kizayis of matzah, v'yachlenu b'yachad, you should eat it at one time. V'loy ma'at ma'at. You should not eat it a small amount at a time. What does that mean? It says the Mishnah, nice cut base, v'yachlenu b'yachad, you should eat it at one time. Ayin le'el siman taf ayin hey, by Mishnah Seif cut and test. The Chofetz Chaim sends us back to siman taf ayin hey, to the Mishnah over there in ice cut and test, where if you look over there, the Chofetz Chaim said that you don't have to get all of this matzah into your, you don't have to swallow it all at one time, but you should try to get it into your mouth and chew it up all at one time, and then you start swallowing it, but you could swallow it a little bit at a time, and the Zman of Kedei Achilas Pras begins from the time of the first swallow. We also mentioned from contemporary Paiskim that a person can eat Kederech Achila, in the normal way of eating. If you find yourself that somehow these requirements are forcing you to eat in some kind of abnormal way, so that's not good. You could eat in a normal way, but you do have to eat the kizayis matzah teich kedei achilas pras, which is somewhere between 2.5 minutes and 9 minutes. Okay. Continues the Ramah on the second line. Ubayarokais, when it comes to the vegetables that you're going to eat for the marar, Tzarich lema'ich chalal ha'avir shebein hayorok. When you measure the kazayas of maror, let's say you're using romaine lettuce, you have to, there's a lot of air pockets and stuff in there. In the maror, there's a lot of folds. That doesn't count towards the kazayas. You have to make sure that when you're measuring the maror, you're measuring actual physical maror, not empty airspace. You have to make sure that you're eating kazayas of the vegetable and not that you're measuring the volume by including a lot of empty air pockets. Says the Mishnah Berurah Gimel by Yerakos Tzarich Lamalech Chalal Avir V'hu Adinim Yesh Chalal B'Matzah. If you had a matzah somehow that had, let's say, if you imagine matzahs in those days where they had thick matzahs, so imagine like a puffed up what's it called, pita, where you have a empty space in the middle. So that's not going to count towards your kazayas. However, the Mishnah Berurah says, so hollow empty space inside the matzah doesn't count towards the shear. You would have to squeeze that pita. You would have to squeeze it so that you're not measuring with empty air. But if there is no hollow area inside the matzah, afilu hiraka, even if it's a soft matzah, v'asuya kisvug, and it's spongy, ein tzarich lamachai. Now this is a very important Mishnah Berurah. If you take your bakery challah that you bought for Shabbos, when you slice open your bakery challah and you look inside, there's a lot of air pockets in there. There's a lot of air bubbles in there. Really, a lot of bakery challahs, you could take the challah and you could squeeze it and flatten it out. Are you mechuyev to go ahead and squeeze and compress the challah to measure your kazayas? Says the Chavetz Chaim over here, no, you're not. You're not. Somehow those natural little air spaces, those count to the kazayas. You don't have to squeeze those out. You don't have to make a super dense piece of challah. But when we say over here that if there's a chalal, that means there's a big hollow area inside. Like I said, you have a pita that's big and open inside. That airspace doesn't count. Okay. So that covers us for Siman Taf Pei Vav. Now we're going to turn to Siman Taf Pei Zayin. Seder Tfilas Arvish Shal Pesach, the proper Seder, the order of davening Ma'ariv Pesach night, Ubay Dal Seifim, and here we have 4 Seifim. Says the Mechaber. Seder Ayoim, Arvis v'Shachris u'Mincha, by Ma'ariv, by Shachris, and by Mincha. Aymer Shalosh Rishonos. We say the first 3 brachas of Shemona Esrei, like we do by every single Shemona Esrei. We start with the bracha of Magen Avram, and then the bracha of Tchias HaMesim, and then the bracha of Ata Kadosh, Kedushas Hashem. So we say the first 3 brachas, V'Shalosh Achronos, and we say the last 3 brachas, Avodah, that's what starts with Ritzei and ends with Moedim, ends with, Hatov Shimcha L'chaneh L'Hodos. No, Avodah, I'm sorry. Avodah, that's Ritzei and V'Sechazena. That's Avodah. And then the bracha of Haidah, that begins with Moedim and ends Hatov Shimcha L'chaneh L'Hodos. And then the bracha of Shalom, Hamavarech Am Yisrael B'Shalom. So you say the first 3 brachas and the last 3 brachas, Ukedushas Hayoim Be'emtza. And in the middle, between these 6 brachas, we insert Kedushas Hayoim, the sanctification of the Yom Tov day. What is that? Says the Mechaber. Ata v'chartanu, the paragraph of Ata v'chartanu mikol ha'amim, and what a beautiful paragraph that is. We have in mind when we say Shemona Esrei on Yom Tov. Ata v'chartanu mikol ha'amim, Rabbeinu Shalom, you chose us from all the nations. V'kidashtanu b'mitzvaysecha, v'keraftanu malkeinu la'avodasecha. What we're saying about the relationship between the Rabbeinu Shalom and Klal Yisrael. So that's the first paragraph of Kiddush Hayom. Vatitan lanu Hashem Elokeinu es yom Chag HaMatzah, says that. So then we mention the paragraph of Vatitan lanu as Yom Tov Mikra Kodesh Hazeh. Vayin L'kamon Siman Taf Tzadik Siv Gimel Zman Cherisenu Yalav Yavai. Then we say Yalav Yavai V'Hasienu, the paragraph of V'Hasienu V'Chayse Mekadosh Yisrael V'Azmanim, and we close off that section of the Yom Tov Shemona Esrei. The section of Kedushas Hayom is closed off with the bracha of Mekadosh Yisrael V'Azmanim. Says the Mishnah Berurah, back on Tzadik Beis Amud Aleph, Es Yom Tov. The lashon of the Mechaber is V'atita lanu Hashem Elokeinu es yom chag hamatzos hazeh es yom tov mikra kodesh hazeh. Says the Chavetz Chaim, u'minagenu loymar, our custom is to say es yom chag hamatzos hazeh zman cheresenu mikra kodesh. Ve'ein oimrim ba'ahava mikra kodesh. We don't put in the word ba'ahava before mikra kodesh. Sharei kvar amru v'atita lanu Hashem Elokeinu ba'ahava ma'adim l'simcha. We already mentioned that the Rabbeinu Shalom grants us this gift of the Yomim Tovim, ba'ahava, with love. So there's no reason to mention again ba'ahava mikra kodesh. Achein kishachal b'Shabbos. Nevertheless, when Yom Tov falls out on Shabbos, yesh oimrim she'oimrim shnei pamim ba'ahava. There are those that say that in that case we do say ba'ahava, and indeed that seems to be our minig. Okay. It's a very short share today, under half an hour, but we're actually going to stop over here. Everybody should have a wonderful Shabbos, and Mirz Hashem, we will continue next week. We'll pick up over here in the middle of Sif Aleph. Thank you so much for joining me for this Libet HaTorah. The schos of Libet HaTorah should stand Gans Klal Yisrael in good stead. The Berurah should send Yeshuas, Refuas, Parnasa, Gesund, everything wonderful to everybody. Be well.